amount of weight in X amount of time. Like that's just, I'm going to do whatever it takes. Or they have this expectation that, hey, I've dealt with issues for the last 5 to 10 years. I'm going to clean it all up in 6 months. For example, our Healthy Gut Happy Hormone program is 6 months. We can get a lot done in those 6 months if the client is in communication, adhering, working the protocols, right? But sometimes the reality of this is you don't get to fully where you want to be within those 6 months because you are fighting, again, years of symptoms and dysfunction. And we might encounter other things along the way that were not present when we first started. Because again, yes, it is layers. And so one of the clips that we saw that we were watching earlier, I love that she's talking about if you've ever been in traffic and you are going, somewhere. This happened to us when we were going to the Grand Canyon. It was really frustrating. It kept telling us, like, because of the time change up there, like an hour, what time we were going to get there. It was like all over the place. At the end of the day, we're going to keep driving towards the Grand Canyon because that's where we're going for the day to spend time with our family and hike, right? We're not going to stop and turn around because, it said 20 minutes later or 30 minutes before or whatever. You can have things moving. Your target can be always ever moving, but you know that you're going to keep walking the same path. And what I would add on to this is what happens if you don't walk the same path?
Yeah. And I mean, I think the hard thing is that timelines are usually selected randomly and without a whole lot of understanding of what it takes to get there by a lot of people. And when you select these random timelines, you kind of get frustrated and annoyed because you are not seeing the progress along the way. And
it's not meeting your expectations.
Yes, it becomes very easy to give up when you put a timeline on things because, again, you're not seeing the expectations being met that you set and you selected kind of randomly and without a whole lot of understanding technically of what you were working towards. And I think you can have one or the other. You can have specific results or you can have timelines. I do not think that they can coexist because when you start putting a timeline on a specific result, you introduce basically inevitable frustration. Like, specific results on specific timelines don't allow for life to happen. They don't allow for, I had a vacation or my kid got sick for an entire week. I had, a timeline for work that I had to work extra hard for the past 4 weeks on. Like, they don't allow for life to happen. And it leaves you ultimately frustrated and upset and likely giving up in a lot of cases.
Yeah. And I think too, even when you're on a path to healing, you need to recognize that you are human. I've talked about this a little bit more on social media lately because one, we never expect our clients to be perfect. No. Becca and I are not perfect. We get you have date night that you want to, go and enjoy, or you have, a weekend trip that you're going to be doing. And so you're going to do that, you're the best that you can and you're going to plan ahead, but it's not going to be 100% because you're not in the same environment. You don't have the same routine. You don't maybe have access to the same foods or cooking abilities or whatever it might be for you, depending upon where you're traveling and what you're doing. You can't wait to start working on yourself because, I have this or I have this. Becca and I have had multiple trips throughout multiple protocols and we do the best that we can. But I'm very clear with my coach, hey, these days weren't super compliant and that's okay because I'm recognizing I am human. I can still make progress, but I also don't have a timeline where I'm like, well, I paid for 6 months. So once the 6 months timer is up, I'm just going to stop doing all the things that I learned and stop working on myself and, stop trying to be a better human. And I think that's where a lot of people, when they set these expectations and they fail to meet those expectations, they think, well, throw this plan out the window. Let's start from scratch. Let's go over here.
Let's go do something completely different.
Or they want to be more rigorous when they can't even adhere to the plan that's laid in front of them. And so I say this to give you one aspect of viewing yourself as like, you have to realize you are a human being. No human being is perfect. No human being is going to follow a protocol 110%. That's just because of life and things that happen. On the flip side of that, what you have to wrap your head around is I'm going to stay focused and I'm going to approach every single day to the best of my abilities and I'm going to keep showing up. Because consistency here is we've said this before, like the goal is to stay in the game as long as possible, right? If you're married to someone, the goal is to stay married as long as possible. If you're alive, the goal is to stay alive and feeling well as long as possible. So you want to continue to do the things that you can do every single day and recognize that Not every day will be 100%.
Yeah.
Some days you might be 80, but if you go 0 to 100 and you keep going back and forth, the law of average here is that maybe you have a 33%.
You just stay stuck, right? You keep going back and forth, you end up staying stuck. And, I'm going to challenge people with this. If you're only willing to work for something if you're guaranteed a result from it, you're likely working for the wrong things. And any results that you may get probably won't stick very long. And that's a really hard thing to evaluate and swallow and accept as a person, but it's the reality. I'll be totally transparent. I'm probably May, June, July. I'm about 3.5 months into my process, 3 months into my process. I'm human. I had expectations like anyone does, but I wasn't going to allow those expectations to completely derail me if they didn't get met. I'm not where I thought I would be at this point. And I know quite a bit around nutrition and health and functional health and all of the things that we talk about. That's okay though, because I know that the work that I'm doing will get me to where I want to be. And so, although yes, like any human, I do have somewhat of timelines in my mind. When I don't meet those, I'm like, okay, things are taking longer. I'm going to keep working forward because my goal has not changed. But maybe it's taking longer to get to my goal than I thought it was originally. But again, the goal hasn't changed. And so you need to evaluate if you are only going to work for something, if it's going to take a certain amount of time, then evaluate what you're working for. Is it purely aesthetic? Because then you are not going to value the health work that it likely needs to take essentially to get you to that aesthetic goal. And there needs to be good communication, obviously, between you and whoever you're working with. And if you're not working with someone, maybe that's the step that you need to be taking. That's why we work with our clients so closely, because we realize this stuff is sensitive and we are constantly evolving our process to better, be on the same page with expectations with clients and with our understanding of what it takes to get someone to a place. But at the end of the day, if you are only doing something because you think, if I just commit for these next 3 months, I'm going to have my dream body, please, have you not seen any of the memes or videos on social media that's like dream bodies take more than 3 months? They take usually like 2 to 5 years of commitment towards something.
Yeah. And it takes consistent action and follow through. Like, it's not just because you bought a product or let's backtrack here. All right. Let's go back to the days where people were buying P90X left and right.
By the way, P90X is a great program.
Freaking hard. Okay.
Very good program, but continue.
So the amount of people that bought P90X to the amount of people that actually followed through and got the results, very drastic from what you see. I believe that the stats came out, it was like 3 to 5%.
Same with Beachbody.
Yeah. The whole company with Beachbody, right? So you bought Shakeology. I sat on multiple bags of Shakeology, and shamelessly, I was a Beachbody coach 10 years ago. Buying the Shakeology, buying the P90X didn't do shit. I had to get my ass off the couch and I had to do the workout, right? I had to make the shake. I had to drink the smoothie. I had to take action. And so just because you sign up for something or you buy something does not mean that all of a sudden you are just going to get these results that fall out of the sky. You have to be willing to put in the work. And a lot of times when we have people coming into the program, they feel like they've been doing the work, and they have been doing some of the work, but it's never been put together for them in the way that covers their whole life. So one of my clients, Jocelyn, was posting about following Becca and I responded back that it's a whole life approach, because you can have the diet as one piece of the puzzle. Your supplements are another piece of the puzzle. Your stress is another piece of the puzzle. Your exercise is another piece of the puzzle. Your trauma, your emotional state, the mindset work. All of these are pieces of the puzzle that we want to work on and manage, because you get the best results when you can bring them all together and they can move seamlessly together in the right direction. You may notice in certain seasons, I'm spending a little bit more time, effort, and energy working on my mindset and shifting my beliefs and really challenging some of the habits that I've had in the past, or, changing some of those things so that I can unbecome that person and move forward into the place where I really want to be. A 21-day fixed meal plan and DVD isn't going to get that for you, right? You're not going to change your life for that. And then again, this is not to diss certain programs. I'm just throwing things out here because I know a lot of people do these programs. Some people join different groups. They have a great Beachbody coach. That coach is, really invested in them, and they do some mindset work and they get great results. I'm talking about the person that's just buying it off of the infomercial and expecting it to change their life. It doesn't matter if it's that program for $250 or you've invested in a program with a practitioner. Whatever it is, you have to remember that you have to show up and you have to do the work. And if you're not in that place yet, that's okay. But you just have to ask yourself, how long am I willing to stay in this place where I'm miserable and things keep getting worse and worse because I didn't want to change my habits or I didn't want to invest my finances or my energy. Yeah. And that's on you.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's, have you set a timeline that you're getting derailed by because you're frustrated by the results you're not getting in that time frame? Is it completely ruining your goals and your progress? Because I think a lot of people, if they're really honest with themselves, are making timelines and not meeting them and then giving up.